The amazing opportunity last night to spend time with a lot of people who were hanging around here, and I basically went around and asked everybody the same set of questions to see what answers I got. I asked everyone that I sat down with or talked to, I said, give me 3 words that describe Lynn Finney to somebody who has never met her. And here's some of the answers. Sweet, giving, positive, stern. I think some of us have seen that side. Liked to give hugs, spoke her mind, could adapt to anything, hot little number. I'm just writing them down. People. This was another good one. State Fair Queen. You knew where you stood. Her way or the highway. That came from her children. Elegant cowgirl. That one I thought was really cool. Elegant cowgirl. Most energetic person I've ever met. Once you met her, you never forgot her. I had 3 different people say that. And when I asked the question, I just asked, I never prompted anybody, anything. That came up 3 different times, exactly the same. Total white person. Again, don't throw any high heels at me. I'm just telling you what I was told, you know. She didn't do anything half throttle, which I'm sure we all saw. You didn't have to know her to sit and laugh and feel important, which is so true. I thought this one was interesting too, and it'll finish this list out. If you didn't know her, too bad for you. You missed out. How lucky are we all to have known Lynn Finney? Just an incredible gift. So, to understand Lynn Finney, let's go there for a minute. You have to know where she came from. Now, her father, Vern, and if you ever met Vern, you know he was an anomaly. They don't make guys like that anymore. That's just, they don't. Now, her father, Vern, hopped on a train in Arkansas when he was 17 to head out west and find a new life. And he jumped off in encampment. Vern moved to a situation to where he became a tracker. And ranchers paid Vern to follow cats up in the mountains and make sure that the cats didn't come back down and hurt the cattle. So Vern became, if he wasn't already, a very, very independent man that could hold his own anywhere with anything, varmint or person. Now, Vern had one singular daughter, Lynn Finney. So you can imagine, from the standpoint of that type of personality, how Lynn was raised, and it might let you know some things about her. She was independent, self-reliant, not afraid of much, and a dead shot with a rifle. Yep. Now, Lynn grew up in encampment, but she eventually wanted to go out and see the world. I don't know why. There's 611 people here, according to the sign. So, now it was as a stewardess that she was in Chicago one night with her crew in a bar when she saw a young military man sitting over at the bar with a friend of his who actually owned the bar. He was on leave, temporary leave, seeing his friend, and Lynn came over and said, sitting by himself, the guy was, and said, "Why don't you come over and sit with us?" So he did. Well, long story short, I'm going to cut out all of the other details that I was told, RG. So, yes, thank you. You're welcome. You're welcome for that. They danced on the dance floor. He said, "Gosh, she was a good dancer." They danced on the dance floor to Tom Dooley, and a month and a half later, they were married. I know. Oh my God. I was like, I didn't know that. So now RG is former Special Forces, Army Ranger, Green Beret. So he was being sent to conflicts, global conflicts around. And Lynn was, I said, "What did Lynn do?" And he said, "Nothing. She kept doing exactly what she was doing. She was a stewardess." And he said, "You see, back in those days, stewardesses were not allowed to be married. So she kept it a secret. Never told anybody." From RG too. That was good. Thank you very much. Anyway, so after spending some time in Fort Worth, Lynn wanted to come back to her hometown, Encampment. So they moved back to Encampment. Now, Lynn, raising a family now with 2 boys, and she's also started to teach aerobics here in town. RG's experience is out killing bad guys. So RG, I said, "Well, what did you do here?" Not kill bad guys, yeah. No, that's not true. He became Encampment's first, at the bequest of the mayor at the time, it became Encampment's first police force of 1. And I said, "Oh, you had your own cop car?" And he goes, "Well, it was actually my car." And I said, "So was it, high-powered car?" And he goes, No, it was an LTD. It was bright red with a white canvas top. And I said, "Oh, so you look like a pimp." And he goes, "Well, basically, yes. But it scared people when I pulled him over because we put lights in it." So her dad, I'm going to fast forward a little bit. He wanted to get into the Special Olympics. Not Special Olympics, good Lord. Senior Olympics. I know, I caught it before you said something. I heard it come out of my mouth. I was like, oh, jeez. No, that was more me and Sean's time. Special Olympics. Anyway, so Senior Olympics. So Vern is a runner in the Senior Olympics Wyoming Senior Olympics down in Laramie. And he wins a gold medal. Yeah, really. So then the next year he decides, well, I want to try cycling. Why at, 80 you would decide, I want to try cycling? Again, it's Vern. I don't know. So unbeknownst to Lynn, Vern signs both he and Lynn up for the time trials. And then tells her, oh, by the way, you're gonna try this too. Lynn, of course, not being afraid of anything, says, sure, let's do it. She's been riding bikes out here on the hills. She gets down to Laramie and she smokes all the boys, all the guys, and gets a place. And then eventually in the Wyoming Senior Olympics, wins a gold medal. So that allows them to go to the nationals in Utah. So they're training for the nationals, and Vern had a wreck on his bike, broke his hip. It was pretty bad. I remember that. Some of you, I'm sure, remember that. And his cycling days are over at that point. Well, Lynn, being Lynn, says, I'm going to go win it all. So she took a picture of Vern, put it in her helmet. She not only went to the Senior Olympics, the National Senior Olympics, they started the men off, the men's race first. They let all the men go. They waited for just a little bit, lined up all the ladies, let all the ladies go. Lynn passed half of the men ahead of her, won 4 gold medals, and every one of them in her class. That's Lynn Finney. She was interviewed on Good Morning America and became the poster child for Senior Olympics. And if you walk inside the entryway, right in the house there, off to the left-hand side, is a picture of her in her helmet and her uniform, Senior Olympics, the year that she won. And she got guns, too. I mean, holy cow, the woman is in shape. So that's Lynn. Now, I'm going to tell you there were tons of stories. I laughed and cried listening to some of these stories. I cannot tell all of them, but I'm going to tell you a couple of them because they're just either very poignant or hilarious. So Lynn loved animals. This came from a very, very early age when her dad would bring back, an abandoned bobcat. Well, it probably wasn't abandoned. He probably shot the mom and then, felt bad because there was this. So he brings it back to Lynn. Here you go. So I've been told and seen pictures of her with baby bobcats and coyotes and even a mountain lion that Vern kept for a while. And I was told that she even had a baby beaver that she used to let swim around in the bathtub with her. This is Lynn. Lisa told me this story. Lisa helps out around here some with the rooms and was cleaning the rooms out. And she had left the door open, I think, on the riverside open, and she came back in, and there's, if you've been around here, I'm sure you know there are turkeys around here. You can see some of the remnants sometime on the porch and around the doors. And anyway, so there were 2 turkeys in the room. So Lisa goes running back to Lynn. She's like, I have a problem. There's a couple of turkeys in the room and they won't leave. And Lynn's like, you just got to talk to them. So Lynn goes in the room, from what I'm told. Lynn goes in the room and starts going, caw, 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 walking out the door. Well, like the Pied Piper, the turkeys start following her. Turkeys come out of the room, they come in. Lynn walks out here in the grass. There's like 10 of them out here. Caw, 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 and they follow her. So she had a way with animals. Now, let's fast forward real quick to, I was here a month and a half ago, and Sean's driving out of the driveway here, and he'd been talking about, freaking turkeys poop all over my deck. And so Sean's driving out of the driveway, and there's a big, gaggle of them. I guess they're called a gaggle. Walking, and they finally all get out of the way except one. One is just right down the middle of the road. And Sean keeps going, well, he'll get out of the way. He'll get out of the way. Keeps getting closer. He'll get out of the way. Doom, doom. Oh. He didn't get out of the way. Sorry. One less turkey. There's another story that I was told that a bunch of snowmobilers are here. And they're all, up in the kitchen, around the deck, around 6 o'clock. Lynn comes in from teaching aerobics. And, they're like, so how was aerobics? She said, it was fantastic. And they said, well, you're in pretty good shape. I wonder how many push-ups you could do. And she goes, how many do you want? And they're like, well, 10, She goes, she hops down on her hands and her feet in a plank position, puts one arm behind her back, does 5 push-ups on that arm, puts the other arm behind her back, does 5 push-ups on that arm, stands up and is like, that it? You're all like, yes, ma'am, that's it. Now, I asked Jen, same question I asked everybody. Tell me some particular thoughts about Lynn. And I said, but you've got a different perspective than any of the rest of us here. You're actually a daughter-in-law. What was your first, tell me about when you first met Lynn. And she thought for just a second, and she said, she was amazing. She hugged me, and it was as if she'd known me for 30 years. That's just how she was. And she was that way with everyone. Another person here, sitting in the tent, talked about Lynn probably saved his life. He hung out with Sean and Ryan all throughout childhood, and maybe didn't have some of the best direction otherwise. But Lynn basically came in and said, I'm going to make something out of you. And she did. And she took the boys and created, and I don't know if it had a specific name, but I wrote it down in my notes as the Milk Jug Olympics. And I said, well, what are the Milk Jug, the Olympics? And he said, Lynn always made us do competitions and be the best we could be. It was friendly competition, but be the best, strive the best. And he said, milk jug swimming is swimming across a pond with a milk jug in each hand. Do you have any idea how hard that is? I was like, I don't, but I would bet. But he also said, if it weren't for Lynn Finney, I might not be here today. And I probably wouldn't be where I am. I talked with Ashley, Lynn's granddaughter, and I said, give me some insights of your perspective of your grandma. And she had some incredible things to say. Lynn loved her grandchildren. Still does. And Ashley told me that they used to have a sheep barrel out here, a covered wagon, sheep wagon. It's not a sheep barrel. Thank you. Covered wagon out here. And Lynn would take Ashley, and they would make cookies in the kitchen, and they would bring those out to the covered wagon and get in the covered wagon and bring old-timey dresses out and dress up and have tea and cookies and play like they were Old West settlers out here. That's Lynn. She loves kids, along with the animals. Maybe why she stayed with RG for so long. Just wondering. I don't know that for sure. Sorry, just wondering. Yeah. So, not far wrong. Yeah, I didn't think I was. That's why I said it. So, I asked, and I said, what's another great memory of your grandma? And she said, oh, I'd come over here and spend the night sometimes, and Grandma would wake me up and say, do you want apple pie and ice cream for breakfast? And I'd say, yes. And then I'd go home, and my dad would say, so what'd you have for breakfast? Well, apple pie and ice cream. And she started saying, no, you don't do that with kids. Well, you do if they're your grandkids. Ashley said, and this was the last thing she said to me. She said, Grammy would share moments with you and make them special. Now, I know that I have half a dozen of those. And I know that any of you that have known her for years and decades have to have had dozens of those moments where she has taken something, a regular moment, and made it special. Again, that was Lynn Finney. Now I'm going to close with this. And I was talking to RG this morning, and he shared quite a bit with me, and I've asked permission to share this, and he said, of course. And he said, I said, let's talk about your last conversation. And he said, okay. And he said, here's the last conversation we had. She was laying on the bed, and she said, RG, come give me a hug. And he did. And he said, Lenny, I love you till I die. And she said, take care of yourself while I'm not here. And then she held she held his hand and she said, I'll meet you in the sky. That's a lot to take in. And RG and I sat there for a minute, and it was kind of awkward. And then, of course, RG said something stupid. He said, with her work ethic, she'll be the best housekeeper the Lord has ever had. And I said, okay, we're done. Thank you for that. So the last thing before I transition to something else is I talked to Jen, and I asked what Jen would miss the most from Lynn. And without a second going by, Jen said, I'll miss Sean and Lynn singing together and spontaneously harmonizing. So now, Sean has graciously agreed to sing a song.
Hi, everybody. Man, that's tough to follow. Man, great turnout. Thank you so much for everybody for coming out. This is a testimony to all her evolution of life. You know, she had so many different aspects of life, and so this is awesome. But short story, when Mom was a teenager, she got one of her first records, and it was a 45. For all you youngsters out there, one song on each side, A and B. And she played this song so much that she literally wore this record out. She could not play this record anymore. So my friend Jason and I are going to try to attempt to do this right now. Okay, so here we go. Love me tender, love me sweet, never let me go. You have made my life complete, and I love you so. Love me tender, love me true, and all my dreams fulfill. For my darling, I love you, and I always will. Love me tender, love me true, and all my dreams fulfill. For my darling, I love you, and I always will. Love you, Mom. Thank you.
Here's a song that we sang probably in high school together. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. Oh, once I was lost, but now am found. Was blind, but now